Projected win totals, Georgia Tech comes in under 7 for the upcoming season. Why that's crazy and why they should be ranked a little bit higher than where they are from BetMGM. We talk about that today and more on the show. All right. What's going on, everybody, man? Welcome back to the show. So we got a lot to discuss today, man, and we're going to start off with the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, man, and the projected win total for the 2026 season, right? So we know the coaching rankings came out, and Coach Key was ranked number 9 in the ACC, number 9, and we talked about why he should be a top 5 coach in the ACC and what it would take, basically. Hey, how does he get into a top 10 overall college football? Now we've seen the recruiting tear. We've seen what Georgia Tech's been able to do, and what they've done is they've continued to ascend 7-6, 7-6, 9-4, right? And we see the recruiting, right? And they're doing what they're supposed to do. They landed Joshua Salmon Pell, right? They're bringing in all these players like Cole Crawford, and then 4-star after 4-star. And even when you compare this to the 2025 class, this class has a way more depth to it, right? The 2025 class was very top heavy, but then you see the emergence of, okay, last year wasn't good enough for Coach Key in terms of the recruiting class. He wanted to make it better. He wanted it to be much better than what it was, which was like number 39, I think, according to 247. This class is number 24, I believe, according to 247. So he's done what he's supposed to do in terms of this class. A lot of blue chippers should be able to keep most of everybody, but you never know how recruiting goes. Guys get flipped, yada yada, but he's done an outstanding job in the late month of May and June. And crazy that we're only 9 days left of June of putting this class together and getting what he needs for the future. So outstanding job there. But now we talk about the team and where they're at, right? And it's a little surprising to me when we bring up this win total of Georgia Tech being at where they are, right? I thought it would be a lot higher, in my humble opinion, when we look at it, right? So Miami 10.5, no surprise there, right? Everybody's gonna think Miami's gonna go there because they went to the national championship last year. You know what I'm saying? They won a whole bunch of games, did what they were supposed to do. SMU is going to be favored that high as well because they won a number of games. They've been very successful in the Rhett Lashley era, right? Kevin Jennings comes back to another year. They're expected to have a good season, but we know what SMU is. The problem has been defense. Can you get consistent stops? Can you make enough plays, right? Louisville can run the ball, right? Isaac Brown is considered a top 5 back in college football, right? Over 1,100 yards rushing last year. So, but we haven't seen it from Jeff Brom and them just yet. Like, can you get to an ACC championship game again? Can you win an ACC championship? Right, biggest question. Pittsburgh, I think, takes a drop off, right? 7.5 games they're expected to win, but you have Mason Heischel, who's going to be the quarterback for the foreseeable future, right? But no Desmond Reed, no Kyle Lewis, no Rasheem Biles. You're losing a lot of players. So how do you replace that type of production, right? Virginia's a very good team. I think they're going to be pretty good this year, right? Favorable schedule, right? They're not playing no longer in Brazil. They got a really good defensive line led by Fisher Kamick, right? They're going to be able to run the ball with Solomon Beebe, Jaquel Meadowbrook, and you know what I'm saying? And those boys, with Peyton Lewis coming over from Tennessee, decent receiving core. We'll see what happens at quarterback. Clemson, last year, down year, they were expected to win 10 plus games, go to a natty, right? Go be in the national championship conversation. They didn't even make the playoffs, right? They went 7-6, struggled for a lot of the year. NFL talent all up and down that roster, just couldn't quite get it done. NC State, I got to see it. NC State, I got to see it. Like, we know about CJ Bailey. Obviously, it'll be Jalen Duke Scott's job this year. We got to see how they're going to look. I feel like NC State gets hyped up a lot, but we don't really see it, right? So then after that, we move to Virginia Tech. 6.5 is not a bad spot, in my opinion. And the reason I say that is because new head coach, right? New program, new team, new transfers. Ethan Gronkmeyer, Quishon Brown, right? We know about Marcellus Hawkins. We know about how the defense looks like. Still got to figure some things out for Virginia Tech. 6.5 is not bad for them. Now for Tech, I think 6.5 is a little bit disrespectful, right? I think they should be ranked much higher than what they currently are right now, right? At 6.5, according to BetMGM, and where they're going to land it. I think California is another one is going to have a pretty big season. They're my sleeper this year. I've said it throughout all of my shows of why I like California. But for Georgia Tech, right? it's going to start with how they start the season, right? If they can get 3 early wins and go 3-0, they should be in a good spot, unless things just fall off a cliff or you drive the train off the trail. You know what I'm saying? Basically. And the reason I say that is because you got Colorado. Now, Colorado's a team that has done better in recruiting. Diaz knows what he's supposed to do. I think he's a legit QB1 this year. So that matchup against Colorado will not be easy, right? You got guys like Cam Perry that can run the football. Like, it'll be an interesting matchup. But you got to handle business at home against the Colorado Buffaloes. That's number one. Number two, second game of the season. That's going to tell us a lot when you play Tennessee, right? Old Town rivalry. We know how big it is. We know how much they like to play each other. We know what Josh Heupel has, really elite offense. Faison Brandon like to be QB1. Mike Matthews, Travis Smith Jr., Tristan Keys, Rodarius Jackson, Braylon Staley, right? And we know they can run the ball, right? Deshaun Bishop, right? And you throw in there Javon Gordon. This is going to be a very good team, very good roster, right? Can the defense be good enough, right? With Jim Knowles coming in there from Penn State, we're going to find out and see if they can be improved, right? So for Georgia Tech, that's a big game because it's 7 p.m. ESPN. Everybody's going to be talking about that game after. Yes, you got Ohio State and Texas on ABC. We get it, but that's going to be a nice talked about game as well. So if you're Georgia Tech, if you can start that season 2-0, it kind of lightens up a little bit for you, right? It gets a little bit easier, right? So, like when we look at the schedule, right, and I'm gonna say why I think they can get more than 6.5, 100%. Okay, so I want you guys to see this. Okay, so here's the schedule, right? Let's talk about schedule just real quick. Okay. So to me, it lightens up, right? Like the first 2 games are very critical. If you can win both of those games, you are in a very, 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 very good spot, right? Because then you're 2-0, you play Mercer, you should be 3-0 at that point, right? So you should be 3-0 going into ACC play. I'm not saying that's easy, right? Let's say they go 2-1. That's not bad, right? But 3-0, you're in a better spot. Then you have that cross country trip going to Stanford, which won't be easy. Late night kick, you know, Stanford's not as talented, but they are a team that you have to pay attention to, you have to consider, right? So that's a tough one. But if you could beat Stanford, right? Literally after you get a bye week. So almost think about the first quarter of the season is done for, and you get to kind of get a little quick early mini reset before you get back into more ACC play and more tougher games, right? You know, so for Georgia Tech, the first 4 games are critical because if you go in there 4-0, you be 1 on the ACC, you in a good spot, right? Then you play Duke, right? Another winnable game, right? 5. That tough one is going to be Virginia Tech. October 17th at VT is going to be a very, 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 very tough game, right? So that's when I would give them a loss to, right? Because that's not going to be easy after playing Duke, going on the road. Virginia Tech is not easy. So 5-1, you should be able to beat Boston College. 6-1, right? And then you play Pittsburgh, right? On the road, not always easy to win up there, you know what I'm saying, at Pittsburgh. But I don't think they're going to be the same team. We'll see what happens, right? But you should be able to come out on top. Then you play the big one, right? So I think it's going to have a lot to do with the standings in the ACC. You play Louisville, right? Louisville's a really good team. They're usually up there contending, right? And they've kind of had your number a little bit, right? You know, now Coach Key's still new to this rivalry with him and Jeff Braun, but that's going to be a big game at home. You got to win that if you are Georgia Tech, right? So that was kind of a toss up. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know who's going to win. We don't know how they're going to come out on top. Okay, so that's number one. Let's say they lose that 5-2, right? Now I'm not giving you what I think they're going to do or how good they're going to be or what their record's going to be. I'm just giving you hypotheticals. Let's say they lose that. They're 5-2, right? You know what I'm saying? At that point, you still got a lot ahead of you. You know what I'm saying? You still got a lot ahead of you. You know, at that point, like we said, you know, you the first 4 you do good, you go 4-0, 4-1. I mean, 4-0, 5-0, 5-1, 6-1, right? I got you beating Pitt 7-1, right? Said 5-2. My bad, y'all. Let's say 7-2, right? You got 3 games left in the regular season. You got to play Clemson, Wake Forest, and Georgia. Not very easy, right? You had some struggles going up to Death Valley and Clemson. If you can go and you can win that game, you should be 8-2, right? Then you in a pretty good spot, right? You at home, Wake Forest, they're not going to be as good under Jeremy Dicker this year, losing people that only got Gio Lopez. They don't got Robbie Ashford anymore. They don't got the dynamic running back Demont Claiborne. Like, they're not going to be as good of a team. They lost Christopher Barnes as well. So that's a winnable game. You're 9-2 going against Georgia, right? Exactly where you kind of were last year. You know what I'm saying? You was in that position last year, right? And then it's the big Georgia game in Athens, right? So even if you go 9-3, right, that's still a pretty good season. If you could somehow beat Georgia, that's 10-2. That should get you into the postseason. You beat two SEC teams. You've handled business. You only lost to Virginia Tech and you lost to Louisville, right? Those aren't bad losses. Those, if that happens, those are good losses. So to me, that is why I think they will be and win over those 7 games. I think they have a good running game with Justice Haynes. I think the receivers are going to step up. It might not be early in the season, but I think at some point they will. And I think this defense is going to carry this team this year for Georgia Tech, right? So 6.5 is a little unfair. If I were to do it, I would say 8.5. I think they could because these are winnable games, right? Tennessee game would be tough, but if they go to the first quarter of the season, they win 4 games. That's 4-0, right? All doable, all plausible, all doable. You can do that if you're Georgia Tech, right? Then you get to the nitty gritty, but you gotta win the winnable games. You gotta beat Duke and Walker Egan, right? You gotta be able to beat Boston College at home. You shouldn't be struggling with those teams, right? You should be able to beat Wake Forest at home, right? Some of your struggle games should be a Louisville, a Pittsburgh on the road, right? A Clemson. Like those games I understand, right? Those going to be kind of struggle games a little bit. But those other games, Duke, like you shouldn't be, oh, we're finna get upset at home. Like, no, you should be able to beat those teams. Okay. So to me, I think 6.5 is a little too low. I think they can easily win 8.5 plus games. Easily. You know what I'm saying? It's not that hard. It's just handling your business. First 4 games of the year, can you go undefeated? You're right on track of that. Right? You only got to get really 3 more wins, and you should be able to get all that winning or that projected win total. Excuse me. So I think it's all doable. I think it's all plausible for Georgia Tech. It's just now it's just handling business, right? You know what I'm saying? Handling your business, right? Beating one of those tough games, right? And like I said, if you could split that series between Clemson and Louisville, right? Those are I think back-to-back weeks for you. If you can split that, you're in a very good spot, right? But you're gonna have to win one of those tough games. Bottom line. And the good thing is, it's a split. One of them is home, one of them is away, right? But the key for Georgia Tech to get over that 6.5 projected win total is to start the season strong. If you start 4-0, right, you're in a good spot. Even if you start 3-1, you're in a good spot, right? But you can't lose. You can't go first game of the year lose to Colorado, right? That's just not going to be good because then you're kind of, you're scrambling. You're trying to get a win. Like, hey, how can we get a win? How can we get a win? How can we get a win? Right? Then you're going with that early kind of like season desperation against Tennessee, right? And you definitely don't want to start 1-2 because then you're really behind the 8 ball. You know what I'm saying? You beat Mercer, you beat Stanford, but then you got a ground to make up, right? These early games build resumes, right? Big 12, SEC, right? Be a SEC team that's gonna help you all day long. It's gonna help you strength the schedule. It's gonna help the conference. It's gonna help you when you comparing, you know what I'm saying, resumes, right? Because if you Georgia Tech, this is a good resume, right? We looked at the schedule. This is a good resume. So if you can win 9 and 10 games, you should be fine. Because you got 2 SEC teams on the schedule, right? So if you handle that business, you should be good. So I think they will win over 8.5 games this year. I believe in Coach Key. I think they're gonna find a way to get it done. I think this team is gonna be on a roll. I think they're gonna figure it out. Right now, how early that'll be is interesting. Right again, my eyes are on the Tennessee game. That's gonna tell me a lot about Georgia Tech. If they handle business against Tennessee, they're gonna be very, very dangerous this year because Tennessee is gonna be a lot better than last year. You know what I'm saying? Joey Aguilar did a good job. Defense is gonna be way better. Faison Brandon gonna get the reins of you know what I'm saying the squad. He's gonna be young, mistakes. That kind of plays into your favor a little bit, right? Not knowing, oh, this is like my biggest game of the year, right? The lights, the bright lights, like you know what I'm saying. You get that early if you join Tesla later in the season when he's more seasoned and established. You just gotta handle your business. So I think Georgia Tech will get over 6.5 wins. I think it's a little disrespectful. I think they'll get about 8.5. You know what I'm saying? Sounds crazy. But I think it's very doable for Georgia Tech. You got to just handle business. You got to beat Wake Forest. You got to beat Duke. You know what I'm saying? You got to beat Boston College, right? You got to beat Stanford, right? 4 of those games against some of the teams that are in the bottom of the projected win total, right? Handle your business in those games. And then you just got to be able to beat some of those tough teams, right? That are projected higher. The Louisvilles, the Pitts, the Clemsons, right? You got to be able to handle business and beat those teams. Point blank clear. But I think Georgia Tech will have more than 6.5 wins. But comment down below what you guys think. Will Georgia Tech eclipse 6.5 wins? Okay. As always, appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. You hype up the video, man. You know what I'm saying? And join and become a channel member today, man. We shouted out GT_faithful last time. We appreciate them, man. Join and be a member today. Any exclusive intel I have. Talking Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. Talking everything, man. Appreciate y'all tuning in. I'll see you guys in the next one. And remember, as always, peace and love.